Hello, my name is Rick Houston, and welcome to the Scene Vault Podcast, your source for all things NASCAR history. Presented by QWare. Maintain excellence.
That safety thing, I wasn't the guy in the garage buying that it was normal.
The day NASCAR and all of us associated in any way with NASCAR forget its past, that's the day we don't have any future.
September 1994, Richmond. You're apparently talking to a NASCAR inspector just before the start of the final practice session, and he happens to put his hands through the window of your car and fill some holes. Do you remember that? Is that how it happened?
Yeah, Buster.
Was it Buster?
Yeah.
Wow.
Still there.
What was his reaction?
I'm standing there. We're getting ready to go. I think it was happy hour. We're getting to go run last practice, and Buster, who's been part of the sport forever, is still part of the sport. Just leaned in to talk to me, and he put both hands up on the roll bar like something to lean on, and he's like,
"Uh-oh."
Yeah, and he said, "Man, what's?" He said, "I got to tell him." And I said, "Well, dude, you got to do what you got to do." And track opened, and I went out and I ran maybe 2 or 3 laps, and they black flagged me, and came in, and it got ugly from there. And they drilled holes in the top of the roll cage.
Do you remember on that day there was a group of riders that approached you after the incident, and you looked at them and said, "I got to go do something, and I'll be right back"?
I do remember that.
Now, you know how cynical the press can be. Well, we all said, I was one of them. We said, that's the last we're going to see of that kid. We've been here before. And lo and behold, you came back. Now, I don't know if you realize this, but the thing you did by coming back was to earn a terrific amount of respect from the media because you kept your word. Do you remember that? I
do remember it. I remember where I went. I went, I think, Jeremy Mayfield, I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it was Jeremy Mayfield. He had made the race, but he wasn't running a full season. And, or there was something going on there where I thought maybe, because I had been cleared to drive. Mm-hmm. The car had been disqualified, but I had been cleared to drive. So we was racing for the Rookie of the Year, and I'm thinking, well, if I can get these points, because you had driver points and owner points, but if I could get the driver points. And so I went down to see, and I'm pretty sure it was Jeremy Mayfield. I don't even know why I'm thinking that, but I think that's who it was. And the answer was quickly no, and then I came back and talked to you guys. And I remember that because I remember that I was shocked y'all thought I wasn't coming back. Like, damn, I said I was coming back.
Well, now you know why.
Yeah. That was a. I talked earlier about how I had all these obstacles and all these things kept popping up, and the year before I ran my first full Xfinity season, I broke my back in a late model. So if you go back and look at it, if you look at a calendar and you go back and look at all the things that happened, there's crazy amount of things that happened in a short period of time. And I tell people all the time when they're going through stuff, like I look at those first 5 or 6 years, and people outside of it have no idea. They just think, oh, he was running Busch cars and running pretty good and had a good late model career and he won us, but they don't see the cuts.
You broke your back?
Yeah, I broke my back running a late model car. And
I did not know that. Yeah.
So that was a year before I ran full time in Xfinity or Busch. So there were all these obstacles along the way, and the one with getting thrown out of Richmond was an obstacle. But what are you gonna do, right? And it was what it was, but it was also another one of those obstacles that I had to overcome.
At what point did Roush Racing come into the picture?
Yeah, so that's a funny story. So, well, I think it's funny. They actually called Ward. So,
did not know that.
Yeah, so they actually had called Ward, and Ward was already working a deal, or actually already had a deal done with Bill Davis, right? So Ward had done a deal with Bill Davis, and I think Pontiac at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were at dinner or something, and Ward said, I got a call from some guy named Jeff Smith today from Roush, and wanted to know if I'd be interested in driving a car. They're building a new team. And I said, what'd you tell him? He said, well, I got this deal done with Bill. I'm going to do that. I feel really good about that. I said, well, hell, give me his number. So so the next day I called Jeff Smith, and I said, hey, I know you called Ward, but this is Jeff calling.
This is Ward.
Yeah. And so he's like, yeah, let's talk. So then, and this is another moment that people don't realize that. So I went and met with Jack, and he said, look, and I was right up front with him. I said, look, I got a contract with Stavola's, and they said, well, we're not going to talk. And I said, well, why don't we talk and let's see if we think it's something that can work out. And if it is, then I'll go talk to Billy and Mickey. And because you're going to get a chance to drive for Jack Roush. That was a big deal, right? So I went and met with them, and it seemed like a good fit. And basically it turned into, okay, but you got to get straight with, Roush can't do anything until you get straight with Billy, right? We're not going to talk about money. We're not going to talk about anything. Like, you got to get straight with Billy. And I had read an article where Jack was impressed with Mark Martin because he never asked about money, so I never asked about money. Like, the conversation never came up. So I called Billy and just told him the truth. I said, hey, I've got this opportunity. And I was hesitant to tell him who it was at first. But he asked me, and so I said, well, look, I'm going to tell you. And I told him. And I said, Billy, like, without you, I wouldn't be in Cup. And I said, but, this is an opportunity for me to take that next step. And I had a year left on my contract. And Billy said, well, you know what, Jeff, if you think it's good for you, then I'm not going to stand in your way. And so Billy and Mickey, they released me from my contract and allowed me to go do that. And they didn't have to. They could have said no. And ironically enough, they hired Hutch Strickland, whom I replaced on the day he got sick. And without Billy and Mickey Stavola giving me that shot in Cup, giving me that opportunity on a day that's a whole nother story. But then him saying, yeah, if you think it's good for you, we're not going to stand in your way. I mean, what do you say about people like that?
Yeah, sure.
They gave me the opportunity, and then they gave me the second opportunity by letting me go. And that's, Billy and Mickey were great to me, and they were doing their best to build a team. They just didn't have the funding and didn't have the sponsorship and all those things that a Roush Racing could make happen.
They could have treated you like Dygard treated Darrell. They held your foot to the fire.
They could have, and I was prepared. I was prepared to race there. If they said no, that was the answer. That was no, and we were going to go forward. But they let me roll.
We had Buddy Parrot on the podcast about a year ago, and man, he's an awesome guy. What was your first impression of working with Buddy?
Yeah, so I love Buddy Parrot. I tell people all the time when I grow up I want to be Buddy Parrot. Buddy, my first impression with Buddy was how kind he was. He didn't know me. We had passed each other in the garage, and you know how it is in the garage, right? And maybe said a few words, but we didn't know each other. And from the first minute I sat down with Buddy Parrot, he had me believing that he believed in me. And that's so important as a race car driver, especially a young race car driver. He had me convinced that he and I were going to go to battle, and we were going to take everybody on, and we were going to make it happen. And that I was going to be a better driver than any of his other drivers had ever been. And by the way, he crew chief for some pretty
yeah, he did.
good race car drivers.
Yeah.
And that's that was my first impression. And then in working with Buddy for all those years, what I really appreciate about Buddy is that he treated everybody with respect. He is the single best person from a crew chief standpoint that I ever worked with in regard to getting the most out of his people. And not through fear, not through threats, but through encouragement and through team building. And when you drove for Buddy Parrott and you worked for Buddy Parrott, you were ready to go fight. You were part of a team, and you were going to take everybody else on. And Buddy's going to be right there with you. But you were going to battle, and you were going to have fun. You were going to have a good time. You were going to cry
With
together.
Buddy?
Yeah,
Really?
You were going to cry together. You were going to cheer together. You were going to do it together. And Buddy was just a good person, just a plain and simple good person. And we had a hell of a good time. We worked hard, but we had a good time.
You go to Daytona in 1996, the first year, and you finish 5th. Then 2 races later, you're 4th at Richmond.
Yeah.
And then you don't qualify at Atlanta.
Yep.
I mean, did that set a mode of panic in the team, or was it just considered a bump in the road?
It was panic for me. So leaders lead, and Jack Roush. So when we built that team, Jack let Buddy and I do it however we wanted to do it, and then Buddy and I, early on, we really jived, and Buddy was I'm gonna run the people and help you with the cars. You drive the car. You help with the cars. Like we were old school race team, right? And so we missed the race. Jack had given us everything we asked for. We had the cars we wanted. We had the people we wanted. We had the bodies we wanted. We had everything we asked for. And we missed the race. And Jack comes down there and he says to me, Jeff, I'm sorry I didn't give you what you needed today. I will do better in the future.
Wow.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
And so here's race 3, of me driving for Roush Racing, and we've missed the damn race. We're second in points. We missed the race, and Jack Roush took it. And he didn't let a sponsor call me and get on me. He didn't let the media. He took it. But the only fault he had in it was letting us do what we wanted to do. And that right there showed me who Jack Roush was. And Buddy rallied everybody, and those words from Jack rallied everybody. And it was a long week, but we got through it.
At what point did you feel like you might really be onto something with Buddy and Jack and the rest of the team?
The day we first met.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my second year in Cup, if you looked at numbers, you would say I'm an idiot. But my second year in Cup, I started to understand that I knew what I needed. So about a quarter of the way through the second year, I knew exactly what that car needed to feel like. I felt like I knew what springs needed to be in it. I knew what shocks needed to be in it. I started to get the confidence, even though the results don't show it, I started to get the confidence that, you know what, I can do this. And I feel like I know what it takes. And so then building that confidence, even though the results didn't show it, I know it sounds crazy, but I just knew inside of me that it was all coming together. I just needed the opportunity. And so when we all three first sat down together, and Jack told me, look, and what was weird about it, he didn't want us working with Liberty. So we were the third team, but he didn't want us working with them.
No kidding.
He wanted us doing it differently than they were doing it. And so Steve Mill and Howard Comstock and those guys, they had been told, you're not going to work, this team's going to kick your ass, and we're going to show you. So we were immediately like, we weren't teammates. Like we were owned by the same guy working against each other.
Yeah.
Right.
So we didn't get jack from those guys. And so we were on our own. And in regard to everything. And so when we came out and went to Daytona and ran 5th, Ted Musgrave was furious at me when that race was over.
Was he really?
Because he thought I should have gone with him at some point, and I didn't because I don't even remember, but it wasn't the right thing for me to do for me. he was furious. So I'm happy as hell. Brand new team, finished 5th Daytona 500, and my teammate is at the fuel pumps just reaming my ass. He was so mad at me. And I'm like, what the hell, you know? And then we go to Richmond the next week, and we should have won that race. We led the majority of that race and had a bad pit stop late. So it was conflict from day one. But when Jack told me, we're going to let you build the cars you want, we're going to bring you the motors, buddy, we're going to let you hire the people you want. This is y'all. This is your team. Y'all go do it.
Well, given what you just said, 1997 was a breakout year. 3 wins, more than double the top 5s, and 6 more top 10s. So, what you just said, was that a particular reason for the performance?
It was time. It was. We had I was coming into my own. I was understanding what my cars needed to feel like, what we needed to do to make them drive the way I wanted them to drive. We had a hungry young group of people. We were working hard. We were testing. We were just all together. We had conflict and strife as every team does, but we were just together as a team and coming all together at a time when we were all doing really good at each individual role. And it was just a matter of timing. But Jack giving us the opportunity to do it the way we wanted to do it, that was the biggest part of it.
Texas that year, there's a huge amount of controversy over what was taking place on the track, the configuration of the track. There's a huge pile up going into turn 1 on the first lap. How did you make it to victory lane that day?
So, honestly, if you go back and look at my career, that's really my race. That's what I was good at. If everybody could run wide open and it wasn't that big of a, and the track had a lot of grip and the tires didn't fall off, that's not a me race. If you look at places like Michigan, like I never really won at Michigan in a cup car, there's a reason for that. My strength was when adversity happened and it's a slick racetrack, the tires are going to fall off. That's when I was my best. I wasn't the fastest driver, but I was really consistent, and if you were supposed to do something, I could do it lap after lap after lap. So those races that were tough like that, so I was good at Darlington, I was good at Rockingham, I was good at the short tracks. That's why. And so Texas fell right into that. Texas fell into, and the other thing is, when we all went there to test the first time, a lot of people said this track is messed up. There was a lot of complaining, a lot of just, and it was messed up. But they were going to have a race. And so me and my team, we were really good at looking at things and saying, it's the same for everybody, and we just go to work. And we didn't approach that race as, oh, my God, this is the biggest piece of crap place ever built. We approached it as, but that's an opportunity. And so
sure. Some
of it was just plain and simple mindset. And Dale Jarrett was really fast that day. He had a mechanical issue, and it just all fell into place.
Well, what did it mean to you personally to win that first Winston Cup race? I know what it meant to Kim.
Yeah, so you go back and think about it. It's been a long time since I won. So, I won an Xfinity race. What would that have been? 3 years prior to that, and here you are trying to earn your way into the sport. I won Rookie of the Year, but it's time to deliver, man. You're driving for Jack Roush. It's time to deliver, and fortunately, that rookie, wasn't my rookie year, but it was the first year at Roush. We ran well, but we couldn't execute. And Jack used to tell me that I was like a dog chasing that car, and I caught it, but didn't know what the hell to do once I caught it. He said that's what he told me. You remind me of that's what he reminded. So on that day, putting it all together, just putting it all together and getting it behind you, because we had put ourselves in position a lot of times that first year with Roush, but we didn't execute. And on that day, where a lot of people didn't execute, we did, and it was just really gratifying.
You win 3 races in 1997. You win, I think, a couple in 1998. Then you win 6 races in 1999, and you win the Winston Noble $5 million bonus at Darlington. Jeff, what is it like to ride that kind of wave of success?
So for me, I'm not the fun guy. I'm the guy that in Victory Lane is thinking about how are we going to get better next week. And so I didn't enjoy it as much as I should have.
Yeah.
But when you walk in the garage and your competition looks and says, we're going to have to beat that team. We didn't always have timing and scoring, right? When you roll out there on the racetrack and everybody picks up their stopwatch, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And to be there is you have so much respect for your peers that you want to beat them, not because you don't like them, because you respect them. And when you are one of those guys that everybody's watching, that's it. The respect of your peers is the ultimate compliment, even if they don't have to say it. And that's what you work for. You work for your peers respecting you and knowing you're one of those guys that you're going to have to beat.
Jeff, the year 2000, you have another great year. You win 4 races. You finish 3rd in the point standings. Your best ever showing in the standings. However, the year 2000 was also a very, very bad year in the sport, with the loss of drivers in each of NASCAR's 3 national divisions. And all of a sudden, you're kind of at the forefront of this huge safety debate, and you're one of the go-to guys about safety and what you think ought to happen with seats and soft walls and Hans devices and whatever. Was that something that you felt prepared for, to be that kind of spokesman, that go-to guy for the press? Or were you maybe kind of learning to be a voice in the garage as you went along?
Well, I didn't go looking for that. You know what I mean? The way my brain works against me sometimes and works for me sometimes. I'm very methodical and I like information. And with good information, I feel like I can make good decisions. I'm not a good impulse decision maker. If I get all the information, I feel like I make really good decisions. So that safety thing, I wasn't the guy in the garage buying that it was normal. And some of the theories I was hearing just made no sense to me whatsoever. And so I wanted to get more information. So my wife and I started investing in some stuff, getting some information. And I was hearing a lot of things that I just plain and simple disagreed with. And I thought that it needed to be said. And it wasn't acceptable to lose Adam Petty. It wasn't acceptable to lose, anybody. That wasn't acceptable. And it wasn't okay to just say that's part of the sport. And it wasn't okay to say, well, they're young and not big enough. And no, that's crazy. And you got to remember, I broke my back in a car that I built, in a seat that I installed. It was seat belts that I installed, and I did them wrong. So when I did that, when I broke my back and did it wrong, then what that told me was we're responsible for what we do. We have a role in playing. So what are we doing as a sport to make it safer than it is today? Understanding that it's not going to, if this was the problem. People thought I was scared, when in fact I was just educated. If I was scared, I'd have quit. But it's stupid to say, well, that's just how it is. That's a bunch of crap. Go to work and make it better. And so it wasn't right. It wasn't right that these young men were getting killed, and it was, I don't want to say being dismissed, but it wasn't being addressed.
Preach, Brother Jeff. Preach.
I mean, it wasn't being addressed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it was a secret. That's what drove me nuts. It's like we're not supposed to talk about it. And trust me, I caught hell for talking about it. I mean, I was not popular with a lot of people.
I can imagine a couple that you caught hell from.
And
Yeah.
I didn't care. I'd had enough success where I didn't have to care. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Absolutely.
If I was rookie Jeff, I couldn't have done that. If I was third year Jeff, I couldn't have done that. But I had won enough races to where they're not going to move me out of here because of these opinions. I've got the owner. My Jack was 100% supporting me. He just asked me to be respectful. I had some other drivers whose owners that told them to shut the hell up. And Jack never did that to me. Jack said, "You be respectful, but you do what you got to do." And so I was the right time in my career, and I had the people behind me backing me up, and what I was saying was right.
Well,
And
yes,
I knew
it
it
was.
was right.
Absolutely
as an
right.
aside, it was during this period of time that you became the media's go-to guy. Here's a guy who makes sense in the garage area. That was our philosophy, to be honest with you.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that's a compliment. I appreciate that, and I didn't go looking for that. You know what I mean?
No.
I didn't go looking for it. It's just there was just some stupid stuff going on that didn't have to happen, and it was just my time that I could step up and had the support of people around me, and we moved the ball. We moved the ball. We made a lot of good stuff happen. And I was part of that process. It wasn't the entire process by any means. I was part of that process. And the difference today is that we just saw this Ryan Newman crash, right? And I didn't have to pick up the phone and raise hell at somebody. I knew that NASCAR was on it. And the change from then to now is, I mean, it went from being recommended to wear a helmet. Remember that. The rule book recommended that you wear a helmet.
Recommended.
It was recommended. They didn't want the liability telling you what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
To having NASCAR, I don't care what anybody says, NASCAR in regard to safety leads motorsports. In regard to their research and development, in regard to all the things that they do, they are the leaders in motorsports. Are there things they could do better? Of course. But they're the leaders. And think about the change between being reactive to proactive. It's two different mindsets, and now they're very proactive.
So, Jeff, the year 2000, you're on one side of the debate when it comes to safety. And then in September at Richmond, Dale Earnhardt gets a handful of reporters in his hauler, and he kind of goes off about drivers thinking the cars are going too fast and full-face helmets and so forth, and calls them candy asses and the whole kerosene rag thing.
Oh, yeah.
What was your reaction to that? And is safety anything that you had actually ever talked to Dale about?
So somewhere, so if you remember the left side Burton net that we built. So somewhere in your archives, there's a quote from Dale Earnhardt saying that thing saved him. So it's a little bit of push and pull, right? Like we were making it better, but this New Hampshire conversation had pushed a lot of people over the edge about, we need to slow the cars down in New Hampshire. Clearly there's an issue in New Hampshire, so we don't know how to fix it, so we're just going to slow the cars down, right? Well, that infuriated people, which, by the way, that was a race I led 300 laps.
All 300 laps.
Yeah.
So that infuriated people, and that set off the a lot of comments about safety and those kind of things. But in my world, I didn't know if the plate was the right thing to do or not. But what I did know is at least they were doing something, right?
Sure.
At least they were trying something. To me, that was a good sign. Like, damn, they realized we got an issue. They can't fix the racetrack because they don't know how to fix it at that point, but let's do something. But that infuriated people. It really made them mad. And it pissed them off even more. So we went to work, and we led all 300 laps, not because we didn't lead all 300 laps because the restrictor plate was on the car. We led all 300 laps because we went to Milwaukee and tested for 2 days with the restrictor plate and worked our ass off.
Yeah.
And then Jack flew an engine in that they had been working on. He saw how hard we were working on it. He flew an engine in that we put in that was way better than what we had in practice, because they're like, if you're going to work that hard, we're going to work that hard. And so we had more power, we put more effort into it, and we led every damn lap. And because the plate created an opportunity.
So it wasn't a safety thing. You just went to school on your homework.
Prepared.
Well, no. Well, it 100% was a safety thing, what NASCAR was trying to do. But most teams and drivers just started bitching and raising hell about it. We went to work.
The 2001 Daytona 500. What was your reaction to everything that happened at the end of that race? And as an addendum, were you pleased to see NASCAR really take a more proactive stance after that race than it had before.
So in regard to that, it had started. Okay, so being one of the guys that was beating the drum and raising hell and having conversations behind closed doors, the process had started. NASCAR had started to look and say, you know what, we have to be better. And listen, some of that was Brian France. People give Brian France a hard time about stuff, and a lot of it's not fair. Brian France was one of the guys that was like, yeah, we can do this better. We can be safer. And the process had gotten started, and clearly the tragedy, the Earnhardt tragedy, kicked it in high gear. But the process, without everything that happened before that, it doesn't happen the way it happened. So I don't think we should dismiss all the work that had gone on and the tragedies we had before Dale's tragedy. It was, Dale's was the ultimate, right, that pushed it over the edge. But I don't think we should dismiss what happened prior to that and the sacrifices that other drivers made prior to that. Listen, it was a horrible time when Adam and Tony and Kenny, when all those guys got killed and then Dale got killed. It was just a horrible time for everybody. Certainly worse for the families, but the sport was suffering, and something had to be done.